All right, today we're diving into one of the most consequential relationships in all of human history, the very first encounters between Christianity and Islam. This is the origin story of the crescent and the cross. You know, when we think about these two massive faiths meeting for the first time, it's so easy to default to that simple story of conflict, right? A clash of civilizations. But is that really the whole picture? Or is the truth something much more interesting? A shared and way more complicated history. Let's get into it. To really get how this all started, we have to turn back the clock to the world just before Islam arrived. So picture this. It's the Middle East, early 7th century, and it was a world completely dominated by two empires. Yeah, this was a world defined by two absolute superpowers. Over in the West, you had the Christian Byzantine Empire, the direct heir to Rome, and in the East, the mighty Persian Sasanian Empire. I mean, these two giants controlled pretty much everything. Trade, politics, you name it. And what's so fascinating when you look at it this way is the sheer scale of it all. On one side, you've got the immense power and resources of Byzantium and Persia. And then, look at that tiny bar. That's Arabia. Just a collection of scattered tribes, really, looking like a total footnote in history, completely dwarfed by its neighbors. But here's the crucial twist. These two giants had been locked in this brutal, centuries-long war. By the early 600s, they were both just spent, financially drained, militarily exhausted. They had literally fought each other to a standstill, and in doing so, they created this massive power vacuum right in the middle of everything. And it's right into this gap, this exact moment of exhaustion and opportunity, that something totally new, something world-changing emerges from the Arabian Peninsula. In what seems like the blink of an eye, historically speaking, a new monotheistic faith just explodes onto the scene. It all kicks off with the first revelation of the Prophet Muhammad around 610. Then comes the Hijra, that pivotal migration to Medina in 622, which is so important it marks the start of the Islamic calendar. And by 630, the tribes of Arabia are unified. Think about that. In just 20 years, a new world power was born. Now, this is absolutely key to understanding what happens next. From its very beginning, Islam didn't see itself as something completely new and separate. It had this special theological category for Jews and Christians, the people of the book, or Ahl al-Kitab. It was a way of saying, hey, we recognize you. We share a common heritage, a root that goes all the way back to Abraham. And this table just lays it out so clearly. You can see all the shared prophets, Abraham, Moses, so many others. I mean, Jesus is revered in Islam as a major prophet. But you also see the really important points where they diverge, especially around the nature of Jesus and the idea of the Quran as the final scripture. This shared but different DNA is going to shape everything. So, what happens when you have this exhausted old world and this dynamic new power? Well, when they finally meet, the result is an expansion of Islamic rule so fast it's almost hard to believe. The speed was just breathtaking. First, Muslim armies sweep through the Levant, taking the holy city of Jerusalem. Then, boom, they conquer Egypt, which was the breadbasket of the Byzantine Empire. Over in the east, the Persian Empire, once so mighty, is completely absorbed, and they just keep going west, all the way across North Africa to the Atlantic. And we have to remember, almost all of these lands were predominantly Christian. Just let that number sink in for a minute. 100 years. In a single century, a movement that started in the deserts of Arabia had built an empire that stretched from modern-day Pakistan all the way to Spain. The map of the world was completely redrawn. Okay, so that's the big picture, the battles, the changing borders. But what was life actually like for the people living through this? This is where we get to the really complex reality of how they managed to live together. The truth on the ground was this constant push and pull. On one side, of course there was conflict. You can't have military conquest and deep theological disagreements without it. But on the other side, and this is so important, there were these powerful systems for coexistence built on legal protections and, believe it or not, incredible cultural exchange. So how did they manage this coexistence in the real world? It wasn't just luck, it was built on a really important legal idea, the status of dhimmi. This was basically a formal framework. It designated Christians and Jews as protected peoples. It meant they could practice their faith, run their own communities, all in exchange for loyalty and paying a special tax. This quote, which is attributed to Caliph Umar when he entered Jerusalem, really gives us a window into the official ideal. The goal wasn't forced conversion. It was a promise, a pledge of security, a guarantee of religious freedom. And for its time, that was a remarkably pragmatic and tolerant policy. And this is what it actually looked like in a major city like Damascus. Just look at that. The Muslims were a tiny ruling minority. The city was overwhelmingly Christian, with different sects like the Melkites and Jacobites, plus a large Jewish community. These were truly multi-religious societies living under Muslim rule.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Why does this period from so long ago still matter so much? Well, let's break down its enduring legacy.
So let's recap. First, and most importantly, the story is so much more complicated than a simple clash of civilizations. Second, right from the beginning, there were actual, practical, legal frameworks for coexistence. Third, this interaction lit the fuse for an incredible explosion of science and culture. And finally, the patterns that were set in these first few centuries, patterns of conflict, cooperation, and influence, are, believe it or not, still shaping our world right now. In the end, this shared story didn't begin with a simple black and white narrative. It began with complexity. It was a story of conquest and tolerance, of deep theological difference, and a deeply shared heritage. And looking back at how it all began, it really leaves us with one big question. What will the next chapter of this 1,400-year-old relationship look like?